Hopefully we don't have no babies. I don't even wanna go back home. Hopefully you don't leave my home before I die. Won't you say my name, say my name? If you claim you want me, it ain't no whip.
Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Tarim, and as you can see, Ngozi is not here, and that is because today I'm going to be doing a hair video. I'm going to be telling you guys the pros and cons of having knotless braids. So as you guys can see, I have knotless goddess braids. So this is the same thing as knotless braids, but the ends are curly. That's where the name goddess comes from, and I really like these. I got these 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to let y'all know the pros and cons of having knotless braids. So I have had knotless braids twice so far. The first time I had them was last year, and this is my second time having them. I got them done about 2 weeks ago. So I feel like I have enough experience with knotless braids to tell you guys like the things you need to know before you get them. So the first pro that I have about having knotless braids is that they are extremely versatile, okay? Extremely versatile. From the moment you get them, you can start styling them. You know when you have box braids, if you ever have gotten box braids, you gotta wait like a week. You gotta wait like a week before you can touch your hair, manipulate your hair. You're going to bed like, whew, your head is hurting, your scalp is hurting, and that is because it has a lot of tension on your scalp and on the root of your hair, so you can't really do much with it. And once you can, I do feel like, I don't know, I feel like box braids are kind of stiff. Like, I'd be like, dang, can you like move a little bit? So, but these are very, very flowy and very, very easy to move. And that's what makes me think that they're very versatile. Like, the moment you get these done, you can put them in a ponytail. But for box braids, I feel like you gotta wait like a week, maybe 2 weeks. A week might be pushing it. You gotta wait a week or two before you can even breathe. You gotta wait a little while before your scalp has less tension so that you can finally do styles with it. So most of the time you're wearing it down or on a scarf for the first week when you have box braids. But with knotless braids, you can do anything you want from the moment you get them. So the next pro about knotless braids that I have is that they're extremely flat. Like, I don't know if you can see how flat it is, but it's like, it feels like I have like my hair straightened, but it's just braids. Like, I just feel like they're very, very flat on your head. And if you have gotten box braids before, you know that they can be really bulky because of the box, I guess you could say, because of the place that they start the braid. It's a little bulky, so it doesn't lay as flat. Even though it's very pretty, it doesn't lay as flat as knotless braids. And knotless braids, they start with your natural hair, so it's really natural and it kind of blends together. It doesn't look as bulky, it just looks a lot more flat. So that's why I really like these. I really can tell a difference between these and box braids for that reason. So the next pro that I have about knotless braids, which would be very good for my naturals and the people that really care about the health of your hair, like I do, they have way less tension on your scalp. The tension on your scalp is very minimal. It is because when you get box braids, they start you know, with all the strands of hair, and they start and it pulls on your edges and it pulls on your root, you know, because it has to be tight so all the hair can attach. But when you are doing knotless braids, they actually start with your natural hair. So they start braiding your natural hair first, and then they start adding small strands of hair to the braid. It's kind of like a feed-in braid, I guess you could say, but it's not like sticking to your scalp. So yeah, they add the strands of hair to the braid that you made with your natural hair, and that's why it's a little less tension. One, because you're naturally just going to use less hair when you're making knotless braids, and two, because you're starting with your natural hair. So when you start with your natural hair, it's like the tension you would get if you just braided your natural hair without any extra hair with it. You know what I mean? So that's a big reason why a lot of people are moving to get knotless braids, because it's a lot healthier for your hair and it just feels a lot less stiff and tense and painful, okay? Like, we're not trying to be in pain. Beauty is pain, but like not with knotless braids. Okay, so the next pro I have about knotless braids is that they still look good when they get old. When they get old, like, your natural hair is growing out, of course, obviously with any type of braids. Your natural hair has some new growth, but when it grows out, there's not that little ball that you often get with box braids, you know, because it's a box, you know, it's a box. So when you braid it with box braids, that box that starts at the root is gonna follow down the strands of the hair as it grows. So you're always gonna see where the hair started. But with knotless braids, you can't see where the hair started because you started with your natural hair. So it looks a lot more natural when it grows out. And so it takes a little, it just looks good when it's old. When box braids get old, you can just tell like, dang girl, you got a lot of new growth. You gotta take that out. It's time to get some new braids. But with knotless braids, you can push it long. I mean, I used to get box braids very often when I was younger. And when I got box braids, I'm not gonna lie, I would keep them in for quite a few months. I would keep them in for a long time. But I feel like they didn't look good. Like you could tell like I needed to get my hair done. That needed to go. They needed to go. So, but I feel like I could get away with it with knotless braids, like leaving it in for longer just because it kind of looks good when it looks old. Looks good. So the last pro I have about knotless braids is they just overall look better. I know that's a personal opinion, but I just feel like not only is it flat, you know, but I feel like you can really see the beauty of the hair because of how it starts with your natural hair. It just looks like your own hair. You can't even tell that you have extensions in. But yeah, so they look overall better to me, and I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna stick to knotless braids for good. So although you just heard me rave about how much I love knotless braids, there are some things that you need to be wary of if you want to get them, okay? There's a few things, there's some cons basically is what I'm trying to say of knotless braids that you have to figure out if it's worth it for you and if the pros outweigh the cons. So the first con that I have about knotless braids is that despite what I said before about them looking good when they're old, they don't last that long. I've had these for 2 weeks and you can already see, let me not expose myself. You can already see that, you know, my roots are growing out, which, I mean, yeah, that has to do with my personal hair growth, but it's just not as, the parts don't look as clean, and it's because the root has your natural hair, so your natural hair is easier to kind of slip out, and it just looks a little more frizzy at the top because your natural hair isn't like kind of sucked in and braided into hair. You know, it starts with your natural hair. When you do box braids, you squeezing that natural hair into hair extensions, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of stuck into that box, into the root of that, where you started the hair. But here you started with your natural hair. So your natural hair is kind of just, basically, if you braided your natural hair without any extensions, it would get old after a week. So that's kind of how knotless braids act. My mother actually does my braids, so I'm very fortunate to not have to spend an arm and a leg every time I want to get braids. Every time I want to look cute, I don't have to pay. But I know knotless braids can go from the cheapest I've ever seen is like $150. I really have never seen it lower than that, other than if it's like someone you know or someone that just started hair. It goes from $150, $180 to even $200, and that's, some of that is not including the hair. So if you want to pay for this style, just know that it might not last you as long as you want to. You're gonna get your money's worth in terms of the style is great, but maybe not in terms of the longevity of the style. However, you can wash your hair, and you gotta make sure you're wrapping it every night, putting your scarf on your bonnet, and that you're taking care of it, and you can make it last long. Like, it still looks good for sure, but I'm just saying that it might not last as long as box braids. So the next con I have about knotless braids is that, girl, they take forever to do. Like, okay, so because when you're doing the hair, you have to start with your natural hair and then you're adding a bunch of small pieces to the braid. That seems like it's not a lot, but it is a lot because you have to constantly be grabbing new hair. Whereas when you have box braids, you just start off with the clump of hair that you're gonna use. You already have the section of hair, and that's the only section of hair you need for that braid. So you just take that section of hair and you start braiding it down. But when you start braiding your natural hair, then you have to add and then add and then add. It's just a lot. It's how do I say, interactive? Because at least for me, I have to be passing the person who braids my hair every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds I have to be giving them hair, because when you're braiding, you need to add hair right away, or it's gonna look crazy. Often a lot of braiders, like professional braiders, they have like kind of a rack with sections where they can pre-prep the hair, so you don't really have to do anything. But if your braider is not professional, just expect to be helping them out a lot. I've seen these braids take like 10 hours for some people. It has only taken me like probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours, which is very, very good for braids. But I've heard some stories about like some 12-hour hair appointments. Box braids take a long time too, but these just take a little more time. And also, you have to prep the hair before, and that is also included into the prep time. So it does take a long time. So this is kind of an opinion, but the next con I have is that it's kind of harder to do than box braids, in my opinion, because box braids, once you understand how to start the braid, it's just a regular braid all the way through. And yeah, same thing with knotless braids, but you have to understand how to add the hair in a way where it's not showing that you added the hair. So that's really hard for some people if you're not a professional braider. You don't want the place that you added the hair to be very visible, or it won't be as seamless. And the whole point of knotless braids is because they lay flat. So if you have a bunch of mistakes, it's not gonna be flat and you might as well have stuck with box braids. My next con is you have to make your parts look exquisite. They have to look extra perfect or it's not gonna look good. Yes, you have to make your parts perfect for any type of hairstyle, even for regular box braids, but like I said before, knotless braids lay really, really, really flat. So I don't know if you can see all my parts easily because it's like really, it's really down on my scalp, it's flat on my scalp, which means that you'll be able to see all the parts, especially if you pull it up in a ponytail, which you're probably gonna be doing more with knotless braids than you would with box braids because it's not a lot of tension on your hair. Like the moment you get these done, you don't feel any like pain or anything. You can just be making your hair like this. You're gonna see all the parts, every single part. So you gotta make sure your parts are clean. And also because since it does get old a little quicker, you wanna make sure the parts are as good as you can get them at the beginning because they're naturally gonna look a little worse as time goes on. My last con about knotless braids is that, in my opinion, I feel like you need to use more hair. Especially if you want a bigger size, you need to use more hair. Because if you think about it, at least for me, my natural hair is a lot finer than the extension hair, as you can see. So my hair is a lot finer than the extension hair. So I need to add a lot of hair if I wanted to get a bigger size. I would say this is like medium to small, but a lot of people like their braids bigger, and if you do, you're gonna need a lot of hair to be adding and adding and adding so that you can get to the thickness you want. You gotta make sure that you have an adequate amount of hair with you. I always end up buying extra packs anyways when I'm doing my my braids, because it's just better to be safe than sorry. So that's it for my pros and cons of having knotless braids. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Overall, I love knotless braids. I really do, especially knotless goddess braids. But I had to warn the girls about some of the stuff that could go wrong, or about some of the stuff that you might not have thought of before you get your hair done. But overall, I recommend everyone to at least try this style once, and you're probably not gonna go back to box braids once you get knotless braids, okay? Please like, comment, subscribe, and please let me know what other videos you guys wanna see. If you wanna see more natural hair videos, let us know. Please check out our other videos. We really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.